Explore exactly what it takes to become a successful day trader and the power of consistency from the minds of the trading's elite. This is the Beyond the PDT podcast. Here are your hosts, Bryce, Tuohey, and Matthew Monaco.
What is going on, everybody? This is the Beyond the PDT podcast, and I'm one of your hosts, Matthew Monaco. Today's episode, you guys are in for a real treat, as our interviewee is Harry Haas. For those of you who don't know, Harry Haas is a university student in Canada, so he's a semi-full-time day trader. Recently, he's taken Twitter by storm, implementing the first bounce strategy that he learned from Bao, who is a moderator in the My Investing Club chat room. Although consistent before finding the first bounce strategy, Harry's journey began 4 years ago when he had a devastating concussion that made him stay in his house for an entire summer. Rather than wasting his days away, Harry decided he wanted to become rich and entered the stock market, watching some basic videos on YouTube. Since that time, Harry has become consistent in many strategies and is even helping new traders develop their trading skills. So pay attention to this episode. It's full of great tips for new traders and experienced traders alike. Let's dive right in. All right, man. So yeah, let's just dive right into it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and kind of how you discovered trading, and just, start at the beginning and just walk us through it.
All right. Okay. So basically, I'm Harry. I'm 19 years old. I'm in second year university, major finance. How I got into trading, basically, I got a really bad concussion 4 years ago. It was during the summertime, and it happened actually in April, and it was kind of so bad that I couldn't go outside, I couldn't do anything. It sucked super bad, and some of my friends would come visit me and they'd have to see me through the window, because if I saw any light, I would just be super sick, throw up and stuff like that. So basically 4 years ago, my summer was going to doctor's appointments and doing stuff like that, and my physiotherapist, who was kind of helping me, was you should learn a new skill. You should start reading a couple pages a day. You should do something other than just sit and feel sorry for yourself and be depressed in a little dark room for your whole damn summer. So I was you know what? I want to get fucking rich. I want to make money, and stuff like that. So I kind of got into trading, and I guess everyone starts with Tim Sykes, but I never really bought any of his products. I just watched some of his free YouTube videos and stuff like that. And at that time, Steven Ducks was just becoming a big thing. So I was oh, you know what? I'm not gonna go long. People who buy stocks are just for suckers. I'm just gonna. So I was kind of jaded from the beginning. So I started shorting in the beginning, and it took me about 1.5 years, 2 years to become consistent and start making good money. I guess how I kind of got consistent was just trial and error. Every day I would I'd go into the market. I wouldn't trade a lot of size, you know what I mean? Because I was I'm still a beginner, I'm still learning, I'm still in friggin' high school. So no one, so I was you know what, if I just trade this small size throughout high school, by the time I get to university and out of university, I should be able to become a pretty good trader. So I was always just kind of shorting these low floater stocks, but I wasn't very consistent in the beginning. And it was part of the reason why, I guess, was because I didn't know anything about fundamentals. I didn't know anything about tracking news. I didn't track anything. I was just things would gap up, and I'd just be oh, this looks like a short, it's up too high. Just how most people think, how most beginner short sellers think. They're oh, it's up 100%, it can't go any higher. But when it's a micro float, oh yes, it can go higher. You know what I mean? It can go a lot friggin' higher. So anyway, I got into the fundamental side of it, and that's where kind of my trading changed, and it allowed me to I don't think fundamentals are the holy grail, but they definitely give you kind of an inside to the you kind of get an inside story of what's going on with this company, rather than just some random ticker gapped up. And so anyway, I've been consistent shorting for about the last 2 years. It was able to pay for my university and stuff like that. I'm no millionaire by any means, but I've been consistent and been able to make money off of it. Like I don't need a summer job or anything like that. I was all like, I was never in any chat rooms. I would like learn on YouTube and stuff like that, and like Twitter. There are some good guys on Twitter that kind of like allow you to take your trading. I guess they'll give you like beginner information, and it's kind of up to you to decide what you want to do with it and stuff like that. And then, so I was always alone, never really talked to anyone, didn't even really tweet. I just retweet stuff and like it. And like, that was about it. Wasn't really involved with anything. I didn't really know like that. Like I've watched like trading podcasts and stuff like that, but I didn't really like know any of like the big guys. I was just kind of going into the market every day, like not really jaded, like just kind of forming my own bias and then like seeing if like my thesis worked rather than being in like a chat room or anything like that. So anyway, this fall, I kind of like got in a group on Discord with like a couple traders. Like, I don't know if you guys know like the Bear on Twitter. He's in MIC. Brian Lee. There's a bunch of guys in there. And so anyway, it was kind of cool to be able to like, talk to people who are actually trading every day rather than just like kind of being alone. And like, I'd say like, oh, what do you think about this ticker? And they'd say, oh, like we think this, and this. I think it's important. Like, number one, it's important to get in a group of traders who are in the exact same situation as you. Like, if you're just starting out, like, there's no, I guess, like, if you're just starting out, it's good to be around people who are just starting out. And, there will be like some like older guys, I guess, that can help you along. But, it's good to be with people who are in your situation. It's good to be around people who are like kind of like lower than you that you can like help out. Like if you've been trading longer than someone else, like it's kind of good to be with people who are like kind of below you. And then it's good to learn from like people who are better than you, who are like kind of above you. So then I joined MIC in just a couple months ago. It's a really good community, I guess. I really like it. Like immediately when I joined, I watched like the whole video library that they have like on fundamentals, technique. Like I knew about like some of that stuff already, but it was like good to kind of like reiterate and like go over all that stuff. And like there's videos that Bao has on like level 2 and stuff like that. But like I guess what really took me from like a year ago to now was like definitely like talking to Bao. I talk to him all the time and say like, hey, like what do you think of this? What do you think of like of this stock? And like he'll actually go over like kind of like his pregame plan for it. But I just recently switched to long a couple months ago too, because I found that like the rate of all day faders that were coming that I was like usually playing, because I'd usually just scalp the all day faders like on the way down, like pigs, diluted ticker, like higher float, like that's just what I was doing. But they kind of like a lot of those stocks where you'd think that they would like fade, they kind of started running. So as like in any market, like you need to keep adapting and getting better. When I joined MIC, I learned about like things like first bounce and stuff like that. And that like, it really helped me be able to go short one day, go long the next. That really kind of helped me, as opposed to just saying, oh, I'm a short seller. Like that's all I'm going to do. Because like there's times in this market where like you can go short. There's times in this market where like you can go long. Like we just had like a period about it for a month, I'd say, of like these things, like these crazy runners every day, and you'd be able to just go long, and then the stock would, go up sometimes a couple 100%. And like that's basically what I was doing, just like kind of like going long in the morning, like smaller size, and then scaling in as it was kind of getting higher. And I'd also be trading like the first bounce. But yeah, no, that's kind of my journey.
It's very impressive, first of all, because you were alone for so long and, you weren't part of really any community. So it was all self-taught. That's just impressive to me.
In the beginning, yeah. I'd say probably what took my trading to like the next level, though, was definitely being in MIC. Like that really, like having Bao talk about like tape reading every day and just like talk about like things that I didn't know, like kind of like these like little like golden nuggets that I'd never think about. Like each day he'll say kind of like what lines he's looking at, if he's long or short. And like everyone will message you, reach out, and just kind of a bunch of stuff like that. Like I guess like it was really like Bao who helped me take my trading to like the next level, which was kind of awesome.
So back to the point where you're just talking about, being part of a community, you obviously had said that it was a big, joining MIC was a big step towards your success. Do you also think that having some time alone and kind of getting to build your own strategy helped you at all too, though?
Oh yeah, like that definitely helped me a lot. Because I wasn't necessarily like jaded by anything. Because I'd see these stocks that would just fade all day, and I was like, "There's got to be a reason for this." Like there needs to be. It was like each day, like I would wake up and I'd try and like I was like a detective in the market. Like I'd go on Excel, I'd track like kind of the fundamentals, I'd track like the SEC filings, and I'd go on like BAMSEC, I'd go on like I'd just try and find I track the news, and I was like, there's got to be a reason why these stocks are fading all day. How come there's stocks that are like going up like crazy, and then how come there are stocks that are just like fading all day? And you will find this in the SEC filings, like those are like some key answers as to what a stock is going to do. You know what I mean? But like at the end of the day, price action's king. That's really the majority. Like being able to read the price action and the tape, like that is something that I really use like a lot, because like you can have a bias going in of being short, and then that can be blown out of the water in the first minute, like in the first candle. You know what I mean?
When you're going through those SEC filings, what are like some things you're looking for that you notice were different between the ones that would run multiple hundreds of percent and then the ones that would fade all day?
I guess like for the ones that would run, like usually there's like no effect, no like S3, no S1, no 424B, none of that stuff. But there have been some that have had dilution. I forget which one it was, ACHV, a couple months ago. It had dilution. They could have diluted, but then it ran like maybe like 100%, I think. It went from like $2. I know a lot of people were saying like this stock has a bunch of dilution, like, and stuff like that. And then, it ran like from 250 all the way up to 450. A bunch of shorts just got killed, just like kind of over convicted. And then like in the middle of the day, the stock just fell. You know what I mean? So it's the Wild West. You can't have too much conviction. And that's why like, depending on the setup, like I'm usually like maybe like a third of size, my first position. And then, it'll go down a little bit, and then I'll add more on the way down into those pops, like if that's the setup I'm playing. But lately I've just been kind of going long because I see this massive opportunity on the front side. And that's kind of what got me into going long, because I would see like these stocks just go up like a couple 100%. And I was like, there's no reason why I can't be catching these moves. Like I just need to grow a pair of balls and just do it. And so I started with the first bounce strategy, and then I kind of started evolving from there. I made a video on it for MIC, and that's where I started. Like I started first bounce, and the stock would like kind of go up, and then I'd just like go long on that resistance, and then it would kind of keep going up. And like I used to pike them a lot when I first started, like in January, but now it's like the more you do something, the more patient you'll become, because like you know what to look for. You know what to look for on the tape. You know what to look for on the level 2. That's why people are like, oh, do you preset your orders? I'm like, yeah, sometimes, like, but like you never know, you know what I mean? It really depends on the tape. Sometimes I'll have an order ready, and all I need to do is just click the button because I see what I like on level 2. I see what I like on the tape. And other times, sometimes I'll chase it a little bit off the line. Sometimes I'll get a bit of FOMO. It happens to the best of us. But usually, like, my orders are either preset or they're preset, but not like I haven't like actually preset them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, level 2 is pretty important to you, but we also watched your YouTube video that you put out, and you used the line chart too, which I know Bao uses, and that's a big part of the first bounce. Could you just, explain why that's so important to you?
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. It's really important to me because I was kind of watching. Basically, I took all of Bao's prints, every single print he posted on Twitter, and I went through every single one, all of his prints, everything, like every single situation. He started posting like a lot of his prints in like July and August and this summer. That's kind of when he became like super active on Twitter and stuff like that. Not that he wasn't before, because he was, but he was like actually teaching and like showing people his strategies. I remember watching all of his Instagram lives, and they would all have to do with kind of line charts. And I was like, man, like this guy is killing it in the market. He's made a ton of money. Like there's no secret. He helped Alex, he helped Tosh. So I was like, you know what? This guy's gonna help me too. So I took like all his IG lives, I watched them all, and then I took his prints. And there's different strategies. Like I took all the first bounce prints. I looked at them all, and I saw like these kind of patterns. So I would just take the pattern and kind of like draw it out on a piece of paper. And then there's kind of different scenarios. I talk about it in my video where there's like, you can go off of support, you can go off of resistance, as long as you get that kind of pullback. That's kind of what I did. I just studied all of his prints and all of his videos, and then just mastered the strategy. Like, I was talking to him and I was like, man, like I went through every single one of your videos and all of your prints, like every single one of his prints. I was like, okay, why do you preset that there? Or like, why'd he go long there? Why would he do this? Why would he do that? You know what I mean? And finally it kind of clicks where you're like, it almost becomes like a reflex to want to long these stocks now. And like, it's so weird going from like becoming a short seller, just flipping the switch over to long. Like, even today, like I was like, you know what, this is a pure short, and I was like, I'm just not gonna bother. Like, I just like the long, like I love the challenge of longing, because everyone says that it can't be done. Everyone's like, there's no edge in long, like anyone who tries to long, you're just a pumper or a sucker or whatever. No, there is an edge in long. The first bounce is definitely like that strategy works like 80% of the time, and in the times where it doesn't work, like I know what to look for on the tape. And like, yeah, I just basically like everything that guy posted, like I've seen and studied.
Kind of going to the strategy you've been talking about that you found a lot of success with, is that first bounce strategy. Are you looking to, scalp little moves off of that? Or are you looking to catch a bit of a move? I know you said you add into your size.
It really depends on the type of setup and how much volume's coming in. If there's like a lot of demand for the stock, then usually sometimes I'll sell like a third into like a pop, and then if like the stock dumps out on me, well, like, I have enough cushion, so like I'm safe. So it's like a break even trade. Like every time I go in and the stock pops like 20-30 cents, like I have a stop right away to break even. So it's like, you know what, that also helps me with patience a lot. Just like kind of setting a stop to break even, where you're like, you know what, I'm not going to lose any money. So like, that emotion just goes away. If you know that you're not going to lose any money on the trade, then like, it allows you to stay a lot more patient. So on those moves, I guess it really depends like the type of channel. If the top of the channel is at like 3.8 and like the bottom's at like 3.4 and I bought off the 3.4 line, like I'd like to see it go up to 3.8, but if the tape's like stalling on 3.7, can't get over it, I'm probably just going to sell. I'd sell like half of it definitely into that spike. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm looking to like, I have like lines, like I have like certain targets on certain ways that the stock moves. It's all really setup specific, but I mean, you can always make about 10-20 cents with that setup.
So obviously you think the level 2 and tape is extremely important. What advice would you give to new traders who are kind of looking to learn how to study level 2, study time and sales to get better at it?
Record your screen for sure. And I know MIC has actually posted free things on YouTube for traders. Like, they could have just made that member specific, but like they posted free friggin' stuff on YouTube. So there's like 4 or 5 videos. I really think, like, I know a lot of people have DM'd me and said, like, these other services, I feel like they're just hiding something from me. And I'm like, well, I don't know what to tell you, like, I've kind of been lucky where I haven't really developed any terrible habits. And I think that's been, like, a good part, because some of those habits can just kill you. Like, I only play setups, like, even today, like, I only play, like, A+ long setups, maybe B, maybe if I'm, like, an idiot, I'll play like a C setup. But like, sometimes you just need to scratch the itch. Like, as much as I'd love to say it's not an addiction, it definitely is. You definitely want to go out and make money every day. But like, even today, I still went out for like a steak dinner tonight and I didn't even trade. And it's more just rewarding myself on the discipline. You know what I mean? That's really important. Being able to like see stocks that like, gap up, but you're like, this isn't my setup. Like, I remember JMU recently. It was like a B setup to me. I longed it off the first bounce. But like there were other things that I wanted it to do that it didn't. And I was like, I can't size any more into this because I didn't really like the way that it was trading.
So, I mean, you're the youngest person we've had on this podcast so far, which is pretty cool. And you're in university still. So I was curious if you could take us through like a typical day of how do you balance school and trading and stuff, because you clearly are putting a lot of time into trading and there's a lot of dedication there.
Yeah. Okay. So I was even talking about my dad with this like today, because he's like, your finals are coming up, and you have a lot of stuff to do. Basically, I wake up every morning at 7 my time, so I guess that's like 6 Eastern time. And I wake up every morning. I take a shower. I usually don't eat in the morning. I'll usually just drink coffee. Just like kind of go on the screens, look for stocks that gapped up, a lot of volume. And then I'll go into like the SEC filings, FinVids. I'll do all my trading. Like that's usually my trading process. I'll go on MIC, see if there's anything that I've missed. And then after I'm done trading, I'll usually, shut my laptop. That's the hardest part, is the discipline and shutting your laptop off and flicking the switch back to I'm a student now. And all my classes are at night, so I'll usually go to the library after I'm done. I'll go to the library, like do whatever the hell I need to do. Then I'll walk back to school. I'll sit in class, even though like I really don't want to be there. I'll still, sit in class. And then I'll go home. If I need to work on anything, which is usually the case, I'll probably stay like at the library till later. I try and get in bed by 12 or by 11 every night, because you just can't go to bed at like 10 or 9 o'clock. Like there's too much work to be done. And then sometimes if I can see some friends like in between that tight schedule, I will. But it definitely takes a cut on your social life. And that's what a lot of my friends like kind of didn't understand. They're like, man, you never hang out with us anymore. You never chill with us. And it's like, well, trading is like, it is like pretty much like a full-time job. And then because like I'm always tracking every day. Like even though I'm consistent, I'm always tracking every day. I'm always like, even prime example, in December we saw that kind of market shift and a lot of people were freaking out. I don't know, a lot of my friends that were short sellers were freaking out, going like, oh, the market's not like it used to be. Like we used to be able to take a short at 9:30 and fade it all day and freaking cover at 4, and we'd have a great day. And I'm like, man, well, you just got to adapt. And that's kind of when I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go long. I was like, screw it. I'm going to go long. But yeah, anyway, that's my usual day. On the weekends, I usually, couple brews and stuff like that. Sometimes you need to take one day where you're just like, you don't need to study, you don't need to do anything, and you can hang out with friends. But like, I find those days becoming harder and harder to get. Because like there's still so much work to be done.
That's a great mindset there. So going through your Twitter, we saw you recently had a poll if you should or should not drop out of college. So we're kind of curious, what's your final decision on that, and what's your takeaway on that situation?
Damn, I don't know right now. I guess my advice, people have been asking me that question. I'm like, man, I'm the wrong person to take advice from. I guess like, I don't know. I've been talking to a couple of people about this. I know Bao was like, don't drop out of college. Alex also commented on it. Don't drop out of college. I traded. You should. It's a great plan B. Like if I ever blew my account or I ever, something stupid happened, like, it's a great plan B to say, yeah, I can get a job in the real world. But I haven't made any decisions yet, because like, even I was thinking maybe I might just take a year off and trade and kind of travel and just like kind of be like a kid again, you know what I mean? Like not, I don't know, like I've spent so much time focusing on trading that like I haven't given like a lot of time for kind of like myself, you know what I mean? Where like every morning, like on the weekends, like I'll get up and watch the tape, like screen recordings and stuff like that. Like I'm like a pure addict. But I guess that's kind of like what you have to be in order to be successful in this game, I think. But I don't know. I don't know what to do, because it's so hard to say like, yeah, I've made some money, but if something ever happened and I couldn't make money, I could always fall back on, or if I ever wanted to work in the States, because working in the States it's like a complicated like process. You need like, I know like since I'm Canadian, you need like a degree or something, or someone else can like snag a green card before you or whatever, a work visa before you. I don't know how it works very well, but I know you have a better chance of getting one if you have a degree.
Absolutely. Now, actually, so I've got a question a little bit unrelated to that. A few minutes ago, you said that your friends trade too. Are these your friends in school, or are these friends that you met from trading?
Well, there's a couple of people around here that are trying, but they're not very disciplined or anything like that. There's one guy from St. John that I actually helped out. His name's Justin, and like when I first met him, like he had like kind of no idea about the market, and like I really wanted to like help him out, so he joined like MIC. He's making like $200 a day, which is pretty good with a small account. He's got consistent, and I just basically said, take one setup, track it, and that's what he did. He actually he did this all himself. Like it wasn't just me, sending him all my spreadsheets and stuff like that. He took one setup, he tracked it, and he started longing first bounce. That's how he got consistent too. I think this is the easiest strategy to friggin' everyone's brainwashed into like thinking shorting is kind of the be all end all. I know I was. When you first start, you hear every single YouTube video, there's no edge long, there's no edge long. That's all I heard. And that kind of brainwashed me into forming a bias before I even knew what I wanted to do. You know what I mean? There is an edge long.
That's great advice. I'll make sure to link your YouTube video in the show notes when we put this together too, because if you're not in MIC, I mean, it's only a preview, but that first 10 minutes is full of great information. You go through all your criteria, the basic setup. I mean, it's great free content there.
Yeah, that's how I wanted it to be, Like obviously the full videos with like MIC, but I did want like my criteria and stuff that I looked for out. And even like they even show the picture of the individual setups that I look for on the line chart, and like they even show like like how I took those lines and like turned it into a pattern over top of a candlestick chart. You know what I mean? That's massive help. Like I guess my learning curve was shortened a ton just by kind of like seeing other traders, but I think it was also shortened a lot because I had no like bias from Twitter. I had no bias from like all these other people. It was just me kind of learning myself. You are your own best teacher, but I mean, I guess like that would be the only other person I'd ever want teaching me, to be honest. Like he's guided, like, he guided Alex, he guided, Tosh, and everyone will say like, it's respect. Like, he helped me like a bunch. I would like DM him every day, even before I was in MIC, like saying, hey man, like nice chart. I know you use the lines, like, can you help me? And like he'll literally DM back. And I was like, man, this guy's actually cool. And like I remember like I was a fan. I can't even say that I wasn't. No, I've always been like a fan of him. So like a lot of respect.
That's awesome. Now, would you recommend new traders going your route and kind of learning everything yourself? Or do you think it's a little easier to hop in a community like MIC and learn that way?
For me, if I had there's such a big difference between like, this is what I think people like don't understand is like there's such a big difference between MIC and a lot of other services, because one, it's not alerts, and two, we post full process. So like I'll post in the morning like my thoughts on different stocks. Other people will post like their stocks. Bao will post his, Alex will post his, and he'll actually go in and say, hey, listen, we see that there's an S3. We see that there's like a 424B3 here attached. We see that there's like, they'll say like the whole thing, like there's nothing to hide. You know what I mean? And I know that there's nothing to hide because I would be saying the exact same thing. And they're saying, okay, we're looking at these lines. We're going in for short here. This is my risk. This is what I'm doing. And like, people can trade however they want, and we'll say like our process. But like, if you look at other guys, they're like, it's literally turning people into like self-sufficient traders. And that's what like I like to see. Like there's just so many guys in there. I know Bear, Davon, like a bunch of those guys, James, like all these guys will tell you like, listen, like MIC helped me like develop as a trader and like got me to that kind of like next level. And that it helped me too. Like I would have never ever thought to use a line chart, the most basic chart. But that's like his motto, like keep it simple, stupid. That's like his motto. That's literally what I say to myself every day. It's literally like, and people make fun of it too. Like there's so many haters who are like, I hate to say that word, like, oh, so many haters, but I mean, there are people are like, oh, he uses a line chart, he's an idiot. It's like, okay, man, like, sue yourself. I don't know if this was in the free YouTube like preview or not, but like talking about the niches in the line chart and how I'll look for like a little like kind of niche in the line chart, like a little blip of where the price has stalled and then it was able to continue back up. And then when it comes down, that's what I'm looking to long off of, that price stall. And it doesn't matter whether you get a top or bottom. That's enough. It'll be like a little 5-cent, 10-cent channel where you could go long even at the top of that channel and have it fall down 10 cents and then have it come up like, 30. And that's I just love that shit. Like, I love it.
I've noticed the line chart, it gives you a little bit of different information than a candle chart will. And in my opinion, it marks very clear support and resistance. And you can kind of see it a lot easier.
Oh, yeah. 100%. I never even thought to do something like that ever. And I remember I was like, I'm going full out long chart. Screw the candlestick. But I found it's better to use both and to be able to compare because like the candlestick chart is how I'm getting the tops and the bottoms. It's just using the lines, placing my orders like a bit above and a bit below. Like that's how I'm getting the tops and bottoms. But like that was so good. He just presets all his orders like top on, top on, top on, top on.
One thing I want to go back to that you were talking about, kind of learning fundamentals. How did you kind of start to understand them? Was that through joining MIC and people like having people who know about it, or was that through like a lot of your own research?
Okay. So how I started to learn fundamentals was I would just go through I'd go on like BAM SEC and I would just kind of track I basically Googled all of like the S3, the S1, all of it. I just Googled it and it was like, an S3 is just shares on the shelf. But if you want to be able to use that, you need the 424 and in effect. And I was like, oh, wow, that makes sense now. You know what I mean? Oh, my God. Wow. And you're just like, okay, I understand that now. So then you kind of read a little bit more. But it's that thirst for knowledge that you need in order to kind of take you to the next level. Like when I wake up and I trade, I love to do it. You know what I mean? I love to be able to wake up every morning and trade. That's my favorite thing in the world. And even people, when people DM me, I'm always just kind of so humbled to say wow, great, that's awesome that people would actually ask me for help. A guy who had a concussion in his basement 4 years ago was literally only able to go to doctor's appointments. That was my fun. But yeah, it's super cool.
That's great. And you really do gotta love it. All the best ones out there, they just love the game, and that's what keeps them going.
I get happy talking about it.
As you should.
Yeah. So there's a lot of aspects of trading. You talked about technicals, a line chart even some fundamentals, but it kind of all comes back to discipline. So do you have any tips on how you helped improve your discipline?
How I improved my discipline? Well, I guess you have to lose money and know that feeling. Let's say I took a D plus setup and went full size. Well, after you do that once, you don't want to do it again. I'll tell you that. It's gotten to a point now where I wake up in the morning and if the setups are there, it's also a lot of kind of confidence too. I always I mentioned this, I'm always trading I'm a retired trader. I'm an old man in a nursing home where I'm oh, I don't need to trade today. You know what I mean? That's my mindset going in. And I think that's the best mindset. Basically, I always say to myself, let the chips fall where they may. I also go into the market, thinking I'm going to lose every day, expecting a loss. Even though I've been on a pretty good win streak, I could have tried to go long those faders today and gotten absolutely destroyed. So that's another thing it's just it's knowing your setups well enough to say, this is not my setup. This is not something I look for, as much as I want and as much as I look at the same stock 4 times and I go through the whole list of yappers and then I go through it again and again and again. They're not there. I woke up this morning and I was like, you know what? Damn, there's nothing here for me. And someone commented on my Twitter and were like, oh, there were a lot of A+ setups. And it's you know what? There could have been A+ setups for you, but there were none for me. I could have went short this morning I know some of my friends did. They told me that they were going short. But I was like, no, like I'm just gonna leave it. You know what I mean? Like I don't wanna screw anything up. You know, I'm at a good place. Like I'm not gonna try and ruin that.
Great advice. So, if you had to do it all over again, go all the way back to the beginning, how would you do that? You're in Canada, just so the listeners know, and there's no PDT rule there. You can freely trade as much as you want. So, kind of take us through that. You know, how much would you start out with? Like your long setup right now, would you still use it? How'd you do it?
I wish I knew about it sooner, to be honest. I wish Bauhada came out 4 years ago. If Bauhada came out and did MIC 4 years ago, damn, I'd be crazy. You know, like I'm looking at these guys now and I'm like, damn, like I didn't have this. I'm like, shit, like I wish you had done this 4 years ago, you know what I mean? But I guess everything happens for a reason. I'd start out with probably, it doesn't matter how much you start out with. It's really kind of how much size. I see like a lot of people that are like, oh, I blew up $10,000. I blew up 20,000. First of all, get some education, whether it be MIC. MIC is the only one I'd recommend right now, but get some education wherever it is. I know, like, I'm in Hammer's room too. Hammer Trader, he's another guy. Like, I'm in his room too. You know, wherever it is you go, get some education, and then start looking at. There's a long list of different types of traders out there. Like, I've kind of morphed into a long guy, but there are a lot of great short sellers out there too. So find a strategy that meets your personality and trade like 100, 200 shares on it. You know what I mean? Don't risk a lot of money. If you can't go out and make money every day, that's fine. No one's looking for you to make any money. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not expecting myself to start out and make $1 million. But what I think you should do is just trade 100, you know, even 10, 20 shares and just pay the commission on that. You know what I mean? Like, don't risk a lot of money. Figure out how stocks move and just trade with small size. And then when you're like, okay, this week I was friggin' 5 for 5. I only played the first bounce setup. I was disciplined. I was like kind of ready to go. You know, that's where you can say, okay, I'm going from 100 to 200 to 300 to 400. And then you do it again. And you're like, okay, now I can move up to 500. In my opinion, size is earned. And that is a big thing. If you start out with $1,500, you can still trade with 100, 200 shares and then kind of move that up slowly, rather than just saying, you know what, I'm going long 1,000 shares, and if it doesn't work, then so long to the account. You know, it's really important that you start out with smaller size, because it takes the kind of emotion away. Like when you hear Alex talk, Alex trades with like bigger size, but he's like kind of numb to that amount of size that he's trading, compared to if, you know, it was like when I was just starting, I'd be like freaking out. You know what I mean? So it's important that you start small and then slowly grow, as opposed to, I just go into the market every day saying like, I'm only trading the best setups. And if my setup is not there, then more study time, I guess. Sometimes if it's in the summer, I'll just pop a beer open and just watch the tape. You know, I'll lock it down and I'll watch the tape and just say, and just kind of like, I'm always also like looking for new setups too. Like there's been some interesting new setups that have kind of been evolving, which I really like to do. It's just fun for me though. People ask me all the time, oh, like, how can you even do that? How can you even like that? It's like, oh, I love it. Like you get to a point where it's like, it's not even really about the money anymore. It's about like going out and just having fun.
You're doing something you love. That's what matters.
Yeah. And like my parents know that, like, you know, like sometimes like I'll get razzed a little bit at family events for not having like a summer job or anything like that. But it's like, man, like I don't need one, you know, like I'd rather be putting my time towards trading and getting better than working at McDonald's and making less money.
Does your family support the trading?
At first it was kind of like a yes and no. My parents have always supported me. But there were other family members, like I had an uncle who was like, that's impossible. Like, you're not going to be able to do, like, he was just like a broker, and he said like, that's impossible. And like, it really pissed me off that he would say that, you know what I mean? if I was talking to someone my age, I'd be like, you know what, you go out, you have fun. But he's like, no, you're not going to be able to do it. And now I'm just like, I don't know. Do you need to blur that out or something?
That's funny. I had the same conversation with my uncle too.
I mean, like, I don't know if they're trying to look out for you or whatever, but no, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. I've been pretty successful, so yeah, that's one thing. I have had some like family members that have said like, oh, that's impossible. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. But trust me, it can.
With enough hard work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot about putting the hard work in. At the end of the day, you can be given the textbook. You can be given everything. You can be given the online course. You can be given whatever you want in school. If you want to learn an instrument, if you want to do any skill. But it's up to you to put the work in, and it's up to you to want to do it every day. Like, it's something that I feel like I have to do now. Like, I get guilty if I don't watch the tape or if I don't track something. Like, and it's a bad type of guilty, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I should be doing this right now. I don't care if it's 9 a.m. and I'm hungover as hell. I'll get a jug of water right beside me and I'll start watching the tape and chugging the water. Like, or else I'll feel guilty all damn day. It's something that I just feel like I have to do it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like a part of my routine every single day. Like, whether the market's open or not, I'm still getting up and watching the tape.
Man, I love it. I mean, I love everything about the mindset there. That's absolutely awesome.
It's just something that I feel like I need to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you start being able to like meet guys like Bao and Alex, people, guys who are like really good, like traders who like I want to be like I want to be like them, you know what I mean? But like also you can see their different journeys and like they can also help guide you. Like, that's another thing I like about MIC is that, like I've been talking to like, I guess like I've been like just like keeping my mind open, like looking at joining like a prop firm or looking at doing stuff like that. Like I always have my mind open, but like I'll always tell Bao like, hey, what do you think about this? And he'll give me his honest opinion. And that's like advice that you won't get anywhere else. You know what I mean? Like, I can message Alex and say, hey man, know you're busy right now, but like, what do you think about like this idea? Like, what do you think about dropping out of college? What do you think about joining this? What do you think about that? And they'll give you like an honest opinion, which I think is really genuine and really nice. It's no community, like there's no community like that. I don't think. After hours, everyone's posting like friggin' pictures of them drinking and stuff like that. Everyone's saying cheers, and they're like cheering people on. And like, as my long started to get better, like people were like, man, thanks for posting. Like, and I was like, oh, like no problem. Like, and I got a bunch of messages just like that. And they're like, hey man, like I have a question on like your setup. And I'm like, yeah, sure. But like, that was me like a while ago. So it's kind of cool to just go from like, it's kind of cool to see like the journey evolve and like be able to like, like live the dream. That's freaking awesome.
For sure. And kind of, I think to start wrapping this up a little bit, for people who are living in America that do have the PDT, what would you recommend for them to do if they can't start above the PDT?
Like a long time ago, I started with SureTrader, like a long time ago. Their fees are pretty high, but like I was still able to grow like kind of an account with them. It's more so of, I think whether you're PDT or not, sometimes trading 3 times a week can really help you with discipline and picking the best setups. You could go to an offshore broker and say, listen, I can trade every day, but how often do you have 5 A+ setups in a week? Not very likely. So I think if you're trading a small account, you must trade the A+ setups. And even if you're doing the 100, 200 share rule, it's really about picking the right hands to play. If you have 3 A+ setups in a week, well, you will grow your account. But it's kind of determining what you want to do as a trader. Like, do you want a long? Do you want a short? And saying, okay, I'm going to just long first bounce. Well, you should wait for stocks that have first bounce, because today I didn't see any that had first bounce. So it's Monday. We have 4 days left in the week. What if there's another day like today? Well, that narrows you down to 3. You know what I mean? So I think kind of the best way to do it is just whether you're PDT or not, like even if you're with an offshore broker and you can trade 5 out of 5 days, you should only pick your best setups. Like that's like pretty much like the secret. Just trading the best setups and just avoiding all the rest of them. I'd say probably like 80%, not 80, like maybe 50% is just playing the right setup and being able to kind of identify them before they happen. And then it's like your mentality, like my psychology every single day is I go in expecting to lose. I go into the market just saying I'm only playing the best. And that's like today. I was like, no trades. And like people can hate on it all they want and say like, whatever, like, oh, there were a bunch of A pluses. Well, how many A pluses were there when I was longing? Probably not many. So you know what I mean? It's a lot about kind of that stuff.
All comes back to discipline, you just got to do your setup.
That's a main, even if your setup is first bounce or, you're looking to risk off of high a day and go short on a pig or like whatever you want to do, just do that every single time. And then once you master one, you say, okay, I've been working on this one for a little bit. Let's try this one out, smaller size. And then you have two setups. And by the time you get there, you will be consistent. Once you can master one, I think the best one to start out with, definitely first bounce. And I think after that, you can kind of open your horizons to, let's say trend trading or whatever you want to do, long or short, but I think there's just no borrow fees with the first bounce, and that's a problem when you're shorting's expensive and you need to have very, very small risk. It's like a lot of risk management. Obviously you need risk management in any situation. Like that's another key to trading, risking 10 cents to make 50 or 30 or whatever, as long as your risk is less than your reward, you'll be okay.
So what's next for you? Do you have any plans going forward? Are you working on anything in your trading or?
I'm always looking at new setups. I'm always looking for them. Back in December and November, I was looking at long setups and the market just happened to kind of switch over to this weird runner. I think a lot of it was a bunch of these people, like these New Year's resolution guys, funded their accounts and then I think they're all gone now.
After today, it looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, but it's always just paying attention to market sentiment and paying attention to stuff like that. So I guess, yeah, what's next for me? I'm always going to be here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm always going to be just training the best every day. I'll be in MIC for sure. And yeah, it's just, I just like to go out and have fun. I'm not some guy who is saying Lamborghini on the way. I'm not looking to start a service. I'm not looking to do anything like that. I just enjoy trading and I enjoy having fun. It's just something I enjoy and something that I love to do.
That's awesome. If, to finally end this or wrap this up here, if there's one bit of advice or one piece of, I guess, one criteria that you found most important in your trading that you could give to a new beginner trader, what would that be?
Tracking fundamentals with technicals. I think that's I don't know if it's necessarily an edge, but it definitely will help you get an idea. If a stock needs money, or if a company needs money and they need it badly, well, there can be a couple reasons in what they're looking to do, and it's really up to you to track and figure out, get behind kind of the head of a manipulator and what they're thinking.
Great.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's all we had. Do you have anything else you want to say or any last words?
Not really. I just love trading. That's the message I wanted to put out. The message I wanted to put out was I'm just someone who worked hard, who learned, who kind of developed my own process. My niche is weird. Not many people have this sort of long niche. You know what I mean? A lot of people are oh, I'm a short seller. What do you think about this? I just love the game, love the process, and yeah. I'm 19 years old. I got my whole life ahead of me, which is something that's friggin' awesome.
For sure. Harry, where can our viewers and listeners find you on Twitter or anywhere if they wanna kind of look into you a little bit more?
My Twitter is SniperTrader21. My Instagram is Harry_Haas. That's about it. my DMs are always open. I think I talked about just like how on Twitter, like how like sometimes like people wouldn't necessarily DM me back. There are people who did DM me back. Like I'm not saying every trader that's a good trader will not DM you back. But like since I'm a student and I always have my phone in my pocket, sometimes like when I'm waiting in line at Tim Hortons, I'm like, oh, something to do. Or if I'm always trying to be productive. So like, when I'm waiting in line, I'll always like scroll through Twitter, and if I have like a message, I'll always answer it like right away. Or if I'm studying and like I'm starting to like get burned out a little bit, go on Twitter. That's the answer for everything. Go on Twitter and learn.
Awesome.
Watch some videos. Great. Record your screen. That's join MIC.
Perfect. I mean, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on, man, and you had some great advice and great tips, and I mean, I think everyone's going to love it.
We're looking forward to seeing what else, how much you're going to grow in the future, too.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks a lot, guys. And you guys, too. I know you guys are also trading.
Awesome. Have a good one, Harry. It was nice talking to you. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Beyond the PDT. We had an absolute pleasure interviewing Harry today. If you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, feel free to reach out to us on social media or on our website, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. That wraps up this week's episode, and we'll see you next Wednesday.